We'll call the council meeting to order. Everybody stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Take the roll, please.
Morissette.
Here.
Alms.
Here.
DeZiel.
Here.
Weber.
Here.
Brooke. And Hall.
Here.
Here.
Oh, sorry. And Mayor O'Connor. I forgot.
Yep. All right, we are at the portion for citizen comments. Again, this is an opportunity for people to talk about anything they would like to, except for things that are on the agenda. Please keep it short, brief if you can. We do limit this to 5 minutes, as you can see, and also please try not to repeat what other people are saying. Is there anybody that would like to make a comment? Come on up. Tim, good to see you.
Hey, before we take comments, I'd like to address something that happened last week, and think that now is a good time to get this out. Rich and Randy, I would like to take this opportunity to address your words at our last meeting and correct your misinformation. First of all, I embrace the golden rule and use it in my life. I want this initiative to be successful because I care about our city and our residents, and I'm very concerned about the incivility that has proliferated across our country and has infiltrated our local elections as well as our city council meetings. My job is to serve the public and bring their concerns to the council, and I do that job in a professional manner with open ears and an open heart. I was doing exactly that when you made things personal. I work hard to live up to the values of honesty, integrity, and character, and those values were questioned by you, and I was offended by that. As in the Golden Rule book that is in large print and in all caps, do nothing to other people that you would not like having done to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Timothy Hall. I live at 1105 Maple Drive in Hudson, and I was very disappointed when I watched last month's city council meeting. Mr. Mayor, Alderperson Joyce Hall brought forward a proposed policy from the Public Utilities Commission regarding guidelines for community communications through our utility bills. She also proposed a broader communications ordinance or policy for the city. The city has neither of these in place right now. You chose to characterize these proposals as a personal attack rather than as a difference over policy. That is not the case. Joyce Hall and others in our community, myself included, would appreciate having a policy with guidelines regardless of whoever happens to hold the office of mayor. This is about consistency and thoughtful messaging, not about the specific communication that was sent out about the Golden Rule. We need to have rules and guidelines so that there's clarity about what may or may not be sent out in our official communications. I know for a fact that Alderperson Hall supports the Golden Rule, and she is fully backing the initiative wholeheartedly. Alderperson Morissette, you stated in your opinion that Alderperson Hall did not even write the proposed communications policy, in effect, accusing her of plagiarism. In summary, I would hope that you, in retrospect, you regret those comments, and that I would hope that this mayor and council focus on doing the city's business that you were elected to do in a professional and dispassionate manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Any other comments?
Hi, my name is Nancy Christensen, and I live on 4th Street in Hudson, Wisconsin. And I think the Golden Rule is a great way to bring inclusion, diversity, and a peaceful balance to the Hudson community. I do not feel that the mayor or Randy Morrison demonstrated those rules at all during the council meeting on July 26. I believe that the residents of Hudson and the council member you bullied and insulted deserves an apology. I believe that the Golden Rule is a campaign slogan and no action and accomplishments to speak of. I would also ask that there are reasonable accommodations through the ADA and allow comments to be made through Zoom for all, since not all residents can attend meetings due to a disability. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kristen Emerson. I live in Hudson. Do you need an address?
I think we know you live here, Chris.
Okay. So, do unto others as you would have done unto you. It looks great on paper, right? It looks great as a banner splashed across a city website in an effort to brand Hudson as part of a political campaign. When played out in person at the last city council meeting, I found the execution lacking. In fact, I saw a lot of very rude, condescending, misogynistic behavior toward the single female representative who was in the room. It, without a doubt, felt like a playground gang-up fight to me. I specifically would like to mention Rich and Randy as members who stood out to me as members maybe needing to apologize for your actions. On a related note, I think any part of any bullying curriculum includes the phrases, if you see something, say something, which is what I'm trying to do right now. It also includes be an upstander, not a bystander. I encourage council members, I know that a few council members did say something, you weren't comfortable with this, but I encourage council members to take stock as to whether or not you were an upstander or a bystander in the situation last week. But like I said, I saw something that felt wrong, so I'm saying something. I think the conversation that Joyce was trying to have at the last minute was specifically railroaded. So I still have questions regarding her questions. How can there be transparency and rules about what will be placed into the utility bills? What transparency is there regarding costs? Aaron Reeves said a number of times that he makes final decisions and signs off on what is reasonable. So I guess I'm not understanding how, Aaron, you have that power and what you get to decide as far as what's reasonable. That seems kind of like not very definitive. And I do have a few questions about the golden rule. Since it's been plastered on the website for a year, what goals have been attained? Is there less crime? Have we hired more businesses of color, or have we had more businesses of color here in the city? Is the council getting positive feedback, and if so, is it in data form? And what in fact were the data points that were to be assessed about the golden rule as it was set out? Honestly, this initiative seems to be nothing more than a way to brand the city as a political move. And on a different note, finally, I'd like to address accessibility of these meetings. You have the ability to use Zoom, yet have chosen not to. This benefits the council. In fact, I know of at least 3 people who would have been here tonight had Zoom been available, but they had children or traveling arrangements and they couldn't make it. You know, a lot of us actually started coming here because of Zoom, and it gave us a chance to participate in this. And I don't see any reason for that to stop happening, especially knowing that the Delta variant is coming up and it's going to cause some problems this fall, right? So I think that should be accessible to people. And I was just checking my notes here. Otherwise, it just kind of seems like censorship. And I guess ask yourselves, do you really want to hear everyone's voice? And that would be the way to do it. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Hello, I'm Talia Tajima. I live at 48 Heritage Boulevard. I back what everyone else has said before, and I know time is of the essence, so I won't reiterate what has already been spoken. My concern, building off of what's then already been stated, has to do with some statements that Councilman Morissette has made on more than one occasion, speaking to his belief that racism does not exist in the city of Hudson. So Mr. Morissette, the Oxford Dictionary states that racism is prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against a person or people on the basis of their membership in a particular race or ethnic group, typically one that is a minority or marginalized. So here's a picture of my daughter and her 2 best friends, none of which are white, identifying my daughter as multi-ethnic. Her 2 best friends are Black. In the city of Hudson, These beautiful little children have already had grown adults tell them that they don't belong. There has been more than one occasion where we've been at White Camp Park where they've playfully ran up to other children. The parents have pulled their children away and said that we don't play with those type. Their mother, Buddy Quinn as my daughter calls him, his mother is now to the point where she doesn't feel comfortable coming to our city because of things that have been said to both her and her wife. Her wife being a law enforcement officer, and she works at the Federal Bank Reserve, so they're highly educated women. But all people see when they see them is the color of their skin and the relationship they have. So whether you choose to believe racism exists or is rampant in our city, sir, it is here. My husband is told on a regular basis to go back to the country where he came from. My husband was born and raised in Apple Valley, Minnesota. He has served in the Air Force the last 19 years and is continuing in the Air Force. And we are a military family. My son and Sam, he got to swear our son in. So yes, racism absolutely does exist in this town, whether you're affected by it or not. And if you're not affected by it, I'm thankful for that, because that is not an experience any person should have, and not an experience any person or any child should be put through. But to hear you deny that existence altogether within our town is shameful. The way you treated Councilwoman Hall last weekend by questioning her ability to write her own statement is shameful. Mr. Mayor, I would say the same to you. I appreciate the Golden Rule initiative that you're putting forward. One thing I was raised on in a very religious family is you practice what you preach. And unfortunately, what we've seen happen here with you is you're definitely not practicing what you preach. I would like to see, because of this polarization that is ongoing with the mayor and the council people, I would like to see our council come forth and contact the Braver Angels program. The Braver Angels offers 2 skills training programs. One is skills for bridging the divide, and the second is for depolarizing from within. Both trainings are usually done on a voluntary basis. They have a person come in, and each side are able to speak and hash out their differences to come together as a more united front and to live that golden rule that you wish to see presented for our city. Ooh, excuse me, I'm not good at public speaking. I'm very nervous, I apologize. Mr. Mayor, living the golden rule, I can give you a few examples. Living the golden rule is when someone sends you a message that you have never met a day in your life, stating that someone in your community is suffering because of the messages they're hearing from others about the death of a child. You don't say they deserved it. You don't say, well, they should have complied. My first thought, and the people that are standing back here with me, the first thing we said is, what can we do? That is living the golden rule. Living the golden rule is when there is suffering and hunger in our community, and hunger spanning across 75 miles, and you're there that day, saying, what can I do? And being there. Without question, and being there because you want to be there, not because your battery broke in your boat and you had nothing better to do that day. Living the golden rule is getting a message that a member of your community that you're not necessarily aligned with or communicate with is suffering with breast cancer, has lost their job, and doesn't know how to make a meal. And you're saying, what can I do? Not, oh well, not my problem. That is living the golden rule. It doesn't matter if we have differences. The differences are what make us better and make us stronger, but we need to communicate that with one another and not disregard the experience of one just because it's not an experience that I have had or you have had, or Mr. Moore said, or the rest of the council. And in closing, because you seem to like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., which I've had the privilege of spending time with individuals who have actually marched with the great doctor. He has a quote that he is not very well known. It's, there must come a time when we must take a position that is neither safe nor politic nor popular, but we must take it because his conscience has tells him it is right. So please do the right thing tonight. Apologize to our council person, and please take this opportunity to work with the Braver Angels to bring our council together and set that example of the golden rule for our community. Thank you.
Thanks, Talia.
My name is Addison Filiatro, and I have a few comments since I now need to get a babysitter to make a comment due to Zoom being removed. First, I fully support Public Works working on a city compost pile. It's always better to be proactive with the environment versus reactive. Second, I started making comments about the Golden Rule Initiative back in November when I noticed it on the city website. And Alderperson Hall and Alderperson Atkins at the time helped get them added to the agenda, even though it wasn't their initiative. This had nothing to do with politics or mayoral integrity, but simply questions about an initiative and how to get involved, as I asked you several times in an email. But you've never responded to an email, so don't know. I appreciate the work all the Golden Rule members are doing. I'm curious about substance and sustainability, since right now it's primarily a yard sign, bookmark, or neighbor-initiated block party. Additionally, how are you reaching people who are not religious like myself, Mr. Mayor, since that is another main event on September 12th, is everyone is preaching from the pulpit. I would like to see more events that encourage shared understanding and empathy versus just telling people to be kind, because there's a deeper work to be done there. Finally, it was ironic that while discussing the Golden Rule, the mayor and Alderperson Morissette chose to make it personal and attack Alderperson Hall. If you want this to be your initiative, Mr. Mayor, and not the city's, as you very, very effectively said on many occasions, you need to be a leader and not just choose to follow the Golden Rule when it suits you, lead by example, and others will follow.
Thanks, Addison. Any other comments? Any other comments? Any other comments? Hearing none, we'll close that portion of the agenda. Consent agenda.
Approve the meeting minutes of July 19th, 2021 regular council meeting. Approve council claims of $500,080.75. 2020 wastewater CMAR annual report. 2020 PSC annual report. Approve the request for Sustain Hudson to host a farmer's market on Walnut Street under the Hudson Archway, and discussion and possible action hiring a part-time front desk administrative assistant.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion second to approve the consent agenda. Roll call.
Morissette? Alms?
Yes.
DeZiel?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
And Hall.
Yes. And I'd like to just call attention to the wastewater SEMA report and the excellent job that that our wastewater people are doing.
Okay, thank you. Motion's approved. Consent agenda is passed. Discussion possible action on community engagement activities for infrastructure management plan financing alternatives.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. So this discussion tonight is a follow-up from our last meeting's information that was presented. There was a lot of numbers and information to throw at you guys, so kind of gave you the last couple weeks to digest and think about it, come up with any more questions, and then hopefully move forward with community engagement activities to move this forward if the council so desires. So staff requests the following actions as the outcome of this discussion tonight. The first one would be approve discussing the transportation utility and wheel tax further with the community. And specifically, second, approve the following public engagement opportunities. Hold multiple neighborhood meetings to present the need for additional funding and introduce the transportation utility and wheel tax concepts excuse me, to the community. Second, present the information to and receive feedback from the Chamber of Commerce prior to outreach to the business community. Third, hold one or more meetings specifically tailored for businesses and other non-residential properties. And fourth would be hold a formal public hearing after all those meetings are held to allow property owners to directly give feedback to council at this forum. And obviously, those engagement activities are subject to whatever the council discusses tonight and moves forward with. So tonight, we're not asking City Council to make a formal decision to adopt either the transportation utility or a wheel tax. Just looking to move forward with the discussion, and then also, we're not setting funding rates or anything like that tonight. It's simply talking about how to move forward if desired with the conversation about this topic. So with that, staff recommends proceeding with these community engagement activities unless the council feels otherwise.
I would move to approve staff proceeding with the community engagement activities related to the funding alternatives previously presented.
Oh, awesome, we can share it.
We have a motion and seconds.
What was the email that you sent out that Jim?
Yeah, so Councilmember Weber brought this up earlier today, and it's a good point. I just wanted to share that with the council. We did a quick bond run just to show that, the alternative to the transportation utility and the wheel tax is just bond more. And we had talked about, with our proposal, we are proposing to bond more still, but we're trying to offset some of that with the utility and the wheel tax. So what we said was, is if we wanted to show the alternative that if you didn't do the wheel tax or utility, but you still want to generate basically 1.3 million every year, here's what the tax impact would be if you bonded that amount every year instead. So it just gives you, and like I said, it just came out today. I'm sure some of you probably had a chance to look at it. It's not a decision you have to, it's not something you have to use for decision making tonight, other than this isn't the only option. I mean, there's other options to get to, kind of the numbers we want to get to. So we wanted to show that,
It's saying adding 35 cents basically to the mill rate. Is that what that?
Yeah, roughly.
4 point.
It would be roughly something like that, yes.
If we did 1.3?
It's 1.275.
Yeah.
So, as when we talk about this further at some point, we do need to weigh out the pros and cons of bonding versus the utility. Because as I mentioned, when you bond, it just basically is spread out over taxes to all the property taxpayers, where the utility has, it's the utility is set up to have your higher traffic users pay more. They're putting more impact on our roads, things like that. So there's an alternative to it, but the bottom line is yeah, you can spread this out in many different ways than just implementing something new like this. So we want to make sure that the council knows that there's other alternatives to get there. They'll all have their impact.
But that number could go higher if we bonded it different. Instead
Yep.
of doing this with the utility and wheel tax, we would do it at a higher bonding rate,
Correct. Yep.
amount, I should say.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I think the important thing to remember is that's every year we're going to
Right.
be bonding 1.2 million more every year.
So it would have a cumulative effect, and ultimately it would have some effect on overall bond, capacity and things. So we'd have to do a further look at, what that would be. But it was good to be able to show that, there's more than one way to get to this number. So we want you to have the option.
Because I did get some calls and emails already about it, and people against it, and you're taxing us out of the city, blah, blah, blah. So, I'm not in favor of it. I mean, we can certainly go down the road and have talks and listen to what people say, but towards the end of this, it's not gonna make sense to keep adding the tax.
The question I would put before the council is, we've been talking about roads and how they need to be improved. Are we going to stop the degradation of our roads? We're on a downward slope and it's increasing. We're going to be down to a level of 2s and 3 averages on everything except a half a dozen main streets. Do we want to stop that? And if we do, we know it's going to take money. Now, so that's my first question. Do we all agree that we want to stop the roads and start raising the quality of all of our secondary roads? If we don't, then we don't need to do any of this. It's a moot point. So, but if we do, and I think the citizens, if you ask them, should we improve the quality of all our secondary roads, the answer would be a resounding yes. And that's a question we should ask at every meeting.
I think we should ask them how much they're willing to pay.
Yeah, are you willing to pay this? Don't ask how much you're willing to pay, so are you willing to pay this much every year? Or when Green Street gets redone and your curves get redone, are you willing to pay another extra $1,000 for your frontage?
It affects everybody in the city, in every
Yeah.
little street.
So, but that's just an example of a small street, secondary street that needs to be redone, and there are lots of those in this city. But that one's come up recently as one that needs attention, and we're trying to figure out how to pay for that. And we don't have the funds. We're gonna have to borrow money to pay for that. So can we spread this over the entire city as opposed to have the residents here paying for it? And they're paying for the curbs, but we're paying for, I don't know, 20 houses? What was it, $750,000? I can't remember what that was.
It was like 625, I think.
Yeah,
if I recall
so
correctly.
so the entire city is paying $625,000 for 20 houses to have a new street. And I would rather see us look at how do we spread this across the users? And that's what this utility
Well, let me ask
funding
you
is going to be
a
about.
question in regards to, let's say, like, example of a Quick Trip. Did you run the numbers on them?
Yep.
What if they stop saying, when you do that, they're not coming here? They're not gonna build that other station because of that utility fee and the wheel tax.
Okay,
They're not gonna build, potentially. It's a hypothetical.
it's all hypothetical. And what if people start saying, I'm not going to live here because I can't drive down my street? I'm leaving because you never fix my streets. You'd always taking my taxes and you're never fixing my streets. So, you can make that kind of argument all day long. But, so it may happen.
It costs money, though.
It costs money. But these Quick Trips and the businesses that have put a lot of wheels on our road are responsible for the degradation of our roads.
Let's put tax dollars back to us that we use to spend. So it's not as easy
But
as
is it enough?
It's not as easy as just throwing this utility together and taxing people.
It's a different way to look at it. And the approach that was presented by staff used a measure of both ways. Additional taxing that went across everybody, plus focused funding that was based on usage. And I like funding that's paying for what you use.
Yeah, I agree with Jim. I think it's a much more equitable system. I think it actually brings in money from outside of Hudson as opposed to just taxing the people of Hudson, Randy. So I think that's an advantage, that people who come from Minnesota or other communities, that gets into the system, whether that's a Quick Trip or whether that's a Target or whether that's a Walmart or wherever that is. So it's smart of the city because we're getting money from outside of the city in a sense with those, because it's the trips that you're doing it. I think big picture, I think we've neglected our streets for decades, And is there going to be a price to get them back up into working shape? Yes. Are there more than one way to do that? Yes. Is transportation utility fee equitable and fair way to do that? Yes. Is the wheel tax a fair way to do that? Yes. So I think we're not talking about setting numbers tonight. We're not talking about any of that. The only thing we're talking about is having conversations with the community. So my motion is that we have these conversations with the community, which is what Dean is asking for. Let's have the conversations with the community. Let's see how it goes. Let's see what people say. We will have more information to come back. We're not making a final decision tonight, but I've been on Public Works for 3+ years, and we have to do something. We absolutely have to do something. And so I'm in favor of moving forward, and we'll leave it up to the rest of you guys to figure out if that's a smart way to go after we get the public input.
Well, and I think we want to stress too with that public outreach process, we'll put numbers to it, so Quick Trip will know what they're getting and citizens will know what this would look like at what was proposed. And I think we'll get valuable feedback that way. I mean, it's all, like we said, it's all hypothetical until, people have to start paying it. And so when they see those numbers, I think we'll get good feedback through this process. And so like I said, that's staff's goal is we want to get all the feedback, give all the information we can to the council. And then, like I said, you decide there's more than one way to do it. Either bonding or utility, or maybe now is not the time too. I mean, I understand that we are having these issues. They won't go away. But as a council, you have to weigh that versus what does that mean as far as either tax impact, a fee impact to our businesses, whatever. It's a hard balance. There's not an easy answer here. So we'll try to bring all the information we can, and we'll put all the numbers together at the end with the feedback, and then the council can decide if they think it's something worth pursuing at this time or not.
Yep. One more point I forgot. If we don't move in the direction of fixing our roads now, it is gonna cost us a whole lot more to fix those roads later. Because what's gonna happen is your PACER ratings are gonna fall all over the city, like the good work that Dean has done to demonstrate. It's already documented. So the question is, we're trying to make up a $127 million deficit. We have to start. And if we don't start, it's gonna be worse for the next council, and the next council, and the next council after that. So, is it hard work? Absolutely. But we have to do some heavy lifting with the community, I think, to move forward and make progress on it. So I'm very grateful for the work, Dean, that you've done on that. I think we know exactly where we are now, and we know what we need to do to get to where we want to be. It's all there. The reasoning is all there, so I appreciate the hard work you put in the back end for that, so.
Thank you.
You know-
The thing about borrowing the money is that takes away tax levy that we can use for other things. Every time we add to our tax levy to fund streets, that's money we can't spend somewhere else. And we're always up against our own, a limit, how much we want to raise our taxes and how much we want to raise our levy. And as we increase, as we push more of it towards streets, something else doesn't get funded.
Okay, so, Dean, also, I appreciate the work that you've done. You amaze me with your analytical ability, and you always do a good job. I don't like your numbers. Can't stand your numbers, Dean. And, but, I mean, reality is a big slap in the face, I guess. And, I mean, everybody here, I think everybody here agrees that, you know, we need to stay on top of the streets. We're gonna find ourselves in such a hole, it's gonna be too difficult to dig out of. I don't believe in absolutes, obviously. You presented some, you know, a couple different options, some of this, some of that, and that's the way I like to work on it. What scares me most is that if we go down the bonding trail, it's not the debt service against levy necessarily, because debt service is outside of levy limits. But that debt service means that our taxpayers are paying interest on a big chunk of money, and interest rates are going to start going very high pretty soon, and it's not going to be pretty. So there is no good solution here. There is no good answer. But the reality is we do need to, we need to figure this out. Is 127 million the actual number?
I would say so.
I know you would. I know you would.
I'm the one who came up with the number, though, so.
Let's just say it's a good starting point from which we can start to work at, chip away at, maybe.
Randy?
There's no question this is a long-term project.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen
Yeah.
overnight. You know, the graph that they showed, it was 3 years before we actually stopped bottoming out on our rates and started, or our levels and started going up, so it's.
And we know, and it's kind of alluded to this at I think it was the last meeting, within the last couple meetings, that 11th Street Bridge isn't even included in this. The interchange isn't even included in this, and those are big. I thought those were big numbers. And
So it's well over
and
this
that
number we don't like.
and that is
Low is what you're saying.
that is borrowing. We're going to have to borrow for that. That is debt service that's going to be added to the taxpayer load here in the city. So again, it's we don't have any easy solutions here. There are none, but we do have to tackle the problem, and it starts with a conversation. So I think it's about time we get that underway. So thanks for bringing this forward, Dean. And
Thank you.
So, Randy, what would you like to see done?
We'll chip away at it in bigger chunks. I mean, but we need to have the conversation, you know, bonding more. That's what I.
Okay, so you're saying you'd prefer to bond rather than have this utility?
I don't know yet. I
Okay.
haven't made a final decision in my head yet until we understand the whole big picture.
But you agree that we need to do something about the roads?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
but I don't agree with just taxing the heck out of people.
I know, I don't like to see it either, but I know that we're gonna have to do something.
Money comes from them. It doesn't come out of our pockets any more than it does anybody else. So it's going to be an increase in expenses of the city, and everybody here in the city is going to pay for it. It's a question of how. In some cases, some people might pay more than they used to before. It'll be shaped differently if using the utility funding method.
It's just the big affordable housing thing keeps coming into my head. And how do we balance that with attracting people that can actually work and live in the same community that they expect to? And how do we do that? I don't know.
No, I know, and I've heard from, retired people that we're
Same thing.
having problems paying their tax bill as it is. I wish that we could get better help from the state on some of these things, but.
You know, Randy, and everybody else, as I've been going through this Second Street revision, I've heard, or construction, I've heard a lot about the assessments. And I think when I think about the comments I'm hearing is that sticker shock that all of a sudden they have to come up with $1,000. And I do think there's something really to be said about this transportation utility, because that is something they can plan out, and it's not that big chunk. And knowing that they wouldn't have that assessment, I think if they took that into consideration, that could help them from a budgeting perspective.
Sure.
All right, anybody else?
Did you talk to timeline, Dean, about how long this process would take?
I didn't say anything about that, but yeah, so we're looking to hopefully, this fall, kind of hold these meetings, kind of dependent now on, hopefully COVID doesn't actually come back, but
Right.
depending on how that goes.
So we're probably
hoping to get something implemented for potentially 22 if possible, but obviously we're in the second half of 21, so we'll see. We don't want to rush it. We also want to make sure that, we're talking to people, and whatever time that takes to do that is what it'll take, right? But that's kind of what we would hope, is that we'd have something.
We'll try to get started as soon as we can, sort of thing.
So more than likely, we're not seeing it until 2022 back in this room.
No, I think we'll see it
I
before the
think
end of
so.
this year. We'll see it before the end of this year, for sure.
Funding in 2022.
Yep, for sure, we'll see it before the end of the year.
Great.
All right, everybody good? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. I've got nothing. Anybody?
I got one thing that I wanted to bring up that we could talk about next meeting. I would like to have a conversation about the length of the mayor's term in Hudson. Currently, it's a 2-year term, and I think it would make sense to extend that to a 3-year term, starting in, say, 2022 at the election. So this is nothing about the current term, but it would be in the future. Mainly for stability reasons, mainly to not have your key person having a campaign every 2 years, and then also just sort of an equity issue with how that would play out with potential council members in the future. So I just want to have a conversation about if that's possible, what people think, if there's advantages, disadvantages to that. So.
And I have a couple of things, if you don't mind. And actually, Dean led into it a little bit about the Delta variant, and I would like us to have some conversation as we see that increasing and what that could mean for us and for meetings and how we would meet and keep our citizens safe when they come here, and the council members as well. So just something to be mindful of. The other thing I wanted to ask for was, I was hoping we could get an update on our comprehensive plan. It would, just where we're at in the process with that. And then, so this is kind of a 2-part thing. So 1, an update on the comprehensive plan. And then 2, once we do have it approved, if we could set up another meeting to really go through what our community members have indicated they want to see, and do some strategic planning and how we can move forward with their ideas. And I just have to share a quote from an American author and historian whose name is Edward Everett Hale. And just as a point of interest, he is the nephew of the American hero Nathan Hale. And Edward said, coming together is the beginning, keeping together is progress, and working together is success. And so I hope when we have this comprehensive plan that we can figure out how to have success. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? You have a motion?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion is second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Thanks, everybody.